Welcome to Activations with JJ Special Solstice Ascension Message. In this episode, I'll be talking with you about some of the themes coming up during this particular solstice, including large amounts of release, of trauma and programming, as well as inner child healing and activation. I'm excited to dive into these topics with you, so let's get going so we can see what this solstice has in store. Welcome, my friends, my soul family. So thrilled to have you here to listen and co-create through this Ascension message, which I have crafted especially for this time of solstice. Now I know and understand that some of you are experiencing summer solstice, while others are experiencing winter solstice. That being said, feel free to take what applies to you and what you feel resonates with you, because you don't need to limit yourself thinking, oh, it's not summer solstice for me, so this doesn't really work. I promise you, it's been interesting as I've experienced several solstices with my friends both in the southern and northern hemispheres and seen common themes throughout them. I also noticed that there's no such thing as time and space, and so the themes will often overlap, or people who are needing to experience some of the frequencies and what's being facilitated with the winter solstice, but live where there's a summer solstice, will still be able to dip into those energies. It's really fun to have seen that. Over this last day or so, I've actually begun my one-on-one goddess solstice activation sessions. I still have our group activation occurring on the 21st of June at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and that is something that you are welcome to join us for. You'll be able to feel those beautiful goddess energies. And as I've been going through those sessions, and not only those sessions, but others I've had over the last week or so, I've definitely noticed some themes. And not only in sessions, but also in my personal life. I come to you in the throes of some deep release. And I don't know how many of you are in the same boat as me, but this past weekend, I had about 6 or 7 different gatherings and courses that I facilitated. And it was interesting to see how each one was incorporating release of programming. Every time my guides came in and had the chance to do so, they would say, okay, everybody, we're releasing programming. Take deep breaths. We now release programs of this and programs of this and that. And so I really noticed that was a very, very big theme. So that's something I want to talk to you about, just telling you a little personal experience that I had just the other night. So again, we've been noticing, and I talked about this in the last Ascension message, some of us are experiencing the 7-7 portal energies early. And what that means is we are feeling intense energies. Many of you know that the Schumann Resonance is already acting up. I know on the 18th of June, there were some significant messages coming through that. There were some interesting wavelengths coming through that Schumann Resonance. If you follow any of the many people who track the Schumann Resonance, you will see it was very unusual. And so in this interesting energy, there's been a lot coming to the surface for people. And when things start coming to the surface and manifesting as unique sensations in the body, sometimes heaviness or exhaustion, I always know that we're about to have a big release. And so what I have encouraged people to do is set the intention to utilize the solstice energies, whether they are in summer or winter solstice, to assist them with this release. And that's exactly what I've called in addition to different goddesses throughout the solstice sessions that I've been holding one-on-one with people. Now myself, last night, I had this really interesting experience that I didn't truly understand until I was just waking up and asking my guides, what just happened? This did not feel normal. Yesterday, I took a very deep nap, and today, when I woke up from my night's sleep, I knew that some things had been going on. Now, the weird thing about all of this is that my dreams were so strange, okay? They didn't feel like they were enlightening. It didn't feel like I was meeting somebody in the astral planes. They were literally bringing up people and events from way deep in my past of this current life, and then just some odd things. So as I was waking up, I remembered the dreams. I connected with my guides and I was like, what does this mean? A lot of times I'll ask that, and I'm sure many of you do as well. And they said, well, do you know what a sleight of hand is? And I said, well, of course, it's when a magician is distracting the audience with one thing while they do their trick with the other hand. And my guide said that's exactly what was happening with some of these dreams. Sometimes we need to use a sleight of hand with your subconscious, distracting it with strange dreams in order to assist the subconscious in releasing very deep programming that is no longer serving you. And so what was happening during your dream time was a multifaceted type of a situation where you were over on this side thinking you were experiencing these crazy dreams, and on the other side, on the other end of it, we, your guides, were coming through and helping you with this very deep release. Now, my personal perspective on it was I did feel that something significant had happened because I could physically sense that. And tying this back into the sessions that I've been doing with the different goddesses that have come through, many of them are working in the deep layers and levels of the emotional body, which I've noticed is a big theme right now, as well as the physical body. And it's almost like they're doing some kinds of psychic surgery, is what I've noticed over this last 24 hours of doing these one-on-one sessions. Now, I still have about a day and a half left, and so I'll have to report back to you on what's coming through. Maybe I can do that in my stories, but I think it's of note for those of you who are listening, because I'm sure it relates. Even though you're not having a one-on-one session with me, I'm sure it relates to your journey as well, because as a collective, we're becoming more and more in sync with one another, and our healing journey is beginning to line up with each other's. Now, again, I still have some spots left in the Goddess Solstice activation that will be happening on the 21st. So depending on when you're listening to this and depending on what part of the world you're in, it's 2 p.m. Pacific on June 21st. If you're listening to this after the fact, I will have that playback in my store. And what I'm setting the intention to do for that particular activation is to further assist the group in releasing these deep programs. Now, in addition to that resource, I do have, and I've just posted along with this podcast episode on my YouTube channel, a guided meditation and light language activation with Goddess Sekhmet and Goddess Guan Yin. They were the two who stepped forward and offered to facilitate this solstice activation. Goddess Sekhmet said that she would be there to help the person make the shift in their frequency, while Goddess Guan Yin said that she would be holding space for them to make sure that the experience was comfortable. And so if you're interested in receiving that activation, again, you can find that on my YouTube channel only. So be sure to hop over there and take a listen and make sure that you're in a place where you're relaxed and comfortable. Because again, based on all of this deep release that's going on, you'll want to make sure you hold space for your body to take as long as it needs. Transitioning into a different topic, there's another thing that's been coming up over and over again, even in some of these solstice sessions and then in many of the other groups and one-on-one sessions that I've been having over this last little while. And that is the topic of inner child healing. Now, something fascinating about that is that not only has it been coming into my awareness through different sessions, but I just barely launched the registration for a beautiful offering that I've co-created with my friend Jen Peters. She lives in New Zealand, and I will be heading down to New Zealand to hopefully meet with many of you in person And the name of the workshop that we will be facilitating, it's a 2-day workshop, is Healing the Inner Star Child. And the interesting thing about Jen and I is that we've been working together for about 8 months now. And we have been working through many different themes. We've been working with many beautiful guides. And our work is a little bit different. So if you take a look at what she does, she has some incredible offerings, some self-healing courses. She works a lot with trauma, codependency, things that came up as a child that you developed and are patterns and habits that you want to release. And that's the majority of what she does. She doesn't necessarily focus as much on sort of the galactic elements that I do, although she is definitely a starseed. But when we came together and Spirit dropped in this idea, Jen and I were having this conversation, and I was reminding her that I had this retreat in Hawaii, and I was so excited about it. Many of you I know are attending the retreat in person or virtually. And she said, well, you're going to be in Hawaii. She's like, maybe I should go to you. And I said, well, maybe I can come to you. And we were kind of just discussing the possibilities. And I knew that being in Hawaii, I wasn't that far from New Zealand. And as I started to think about that concept and that idea, Spirit stepped in, as often happens. And the retreat we're doing in Hawaii with the focus on Lemuria, it came through that it would be in alignment for me to travel to New Zealand after I was done with the retreat in Hawaii and continue to do some grid work and some activation there in New Zealand connected to Lemuria. So not only are we holding this Starseed conference, but I'm not sure what it's going to shape out to be, but there's going to be some grid work happening for those of you who are Lemurian starseeds and might be wondering what that looks like. I'll keep you posted in the Golden Lemuria portal, which, by the way, if you're not a part of it already, you can sign up through the link here in the description. These are free resources for Lemurian starseeds, and we have almost 1,000 people already in that portal, 1,000 Lemurian starseeds who are gathering to continue to awaken to the memories of Lemuria and to help anchor the Lemurian codes back into the earth so that we can help Gaia during this period of transition. So that being said, as Jen and I decided, and I said to Jen, I'm coming, I know I need to come. And I think it's to grid and to help do this grid work with Lemurian energies. And then we started thinking, well, maybe we could do an offering. So the offering was almost secondary to the grid work, but it ended up being so tied in because what we have birthed and what has come to us is this concept of marrying what she does with what I do and facilitating the healing of the inner earth child, leading to the healing of the understanding of the inner star child. And for those of you who maybe think you're star seeds or have felt like you're star seeds or know you're star seeds, what Spirit brought to my attention was the fact that there are inner starseed child aspects that are have some maybe some wounds, some abandonment, and having come to this planet and incarnated here in a way that's very different from the lives they spent as interdimensionals or star beings. There's definitely some facilitating of healing so that we can move forward, awaken to a remembrance of who we are as starseeds, and continue to do the work that we have agreed to do, that we contracted to do here on this planet to help with this collective and planetary ascension. Now, you can find out all about that workshop. And I want to let you know that if you're not in New Zealand and you're like, I'm never going to be able to experience that, I don't live there, guess what? We are offering virtual tickets. And so if you feel drawn in that theme or whatever I said just now resonated with you, be sure to check out the option for attending virtually. I can just feel in my bones it's going to be an incredible experience. So speaking a little bit more about the inner child, I just addressed that there's going to be inner child, traumas or issues you're dealing with from your earth experience, from your past lives, whether that's on this planet or as a star being or some other kind of being. But in addition to working with healing those parts, do you know what's been coming through? It's been so incredible. That is the inner child stepping forward to help heal who you are today and to help you come into a greater state of surrender so that you can journey through these frequencies of ascension with more grace and more ease. Now, I had a fairies, dragons, and elementals gathering. It was the middle of June. And if you check out my story, you can find the playback. And I talked about it in the last podcast episode. And that particular gathering was so powerful. We worked with inner child aspects. We worked with deep subconscious programming and released. In addition, I also had our Remembering Lemuria gathering just this past Sunday, and that was the 18th of June. You can access that playback, and what you will notice is that same deep release came through. Now, some people have heard me say this before, but I'm going to tell you again. The amount of healing and activation that happens in my gatherings, in these group monthly gatherings I do, and there are 6 or 7 different ones that I do, is so potent and so transformational. Some things that happen in those gatherings cannot happen in just a one-on-one session. So for those of you who have considered and thought, maybe I want to do a one-on-one session with JJ, I'm not sure, I don't know if I can do that, I want you to consider simply attending one of my upcoming gatherings. It could be the Solstice gathering I have coming up. I also have a 7/7 Syrian Gateway gathering. That'll be after that. And then, of course, my monthly All Access Pass will give you access to all of the gatherings and the playbacks. So I want to remind you that what I'm being guided to do as a healer, as an activator, is to let people know that what you are needing could be found in a group setting. And not only group virtually, but I'm also encouraging people to gather in person. And I have this weekend in Santa Monica a group activation with my beautiful friend Shivi. We'll be doing a solstice goddess activation and cacao ceremony at Into Me Sea in Santa Monica, and that's actually happening on the 25th of June. I will be doing frequent in-person offerings and gatherings in the Los Angeles area, and you can be on the lookout for those events. If you go to my website and you click on InPerson Events, if you go to, InPerson Events, I'm also headed to Connecticut again for the 8/8 portal. I'll be doing some events there at the beginning of August. And of course, the number one focus for me this year is the new Golden Age of Lemuria retreat style conference in Kauai in September. We do have those virtual and in-person offerings. What's going to happen there is going to be so incredible that we are calibrating on a weekly basis as facilitators. We've opened this Golden Lemuria portal, and I can just tell that they're really wanting to help us prepare in the best way that we can. We'll be working with stargates. People who attend in person will have their clairs activated to a level that would otherwise not be possible. But because so many people will be vibrating at a similar frequency, it will open up people's channels. So if you've been kind of considering attending that Hawaii conference, let me tell you, what's going to happen there is going to be extremely potent. And listen to that intuition. Allow yourself to step into the energy of receiving and abundance to make whatever needs to happen possible. I have seen the most beautiful things manifest, opening the doorway and making it possible for people to attend events. And there's no exception here with this event, because I know that it's a big thing for many of you, especially having to travel and all of the things involved with attending. But I promise you, the return that you will get from your attendance in person, especially at the conference, will be 100% worth it. And it will do in days what might typically take years as far as shifting your frequency goes. All right, so just kind of wrapping up, I've covered a lot of topics here, talking about the deep programming that's happening, the release that's happening. I want to let you know that you are being courageous. I keep feeling drawn to say that over and over again. Thank you for being courageous. The amount of release that so many of you are really allowing to happen is monumental. So please don't diminish that. Please take moments to honor what you are doing. You are not only releasing on your own behalf, you're releasing and shifting on behalf of your entire ancestral line, past, present, and future. I also want to let you know it takes courage to call back in your inner child. And sometimes we think it might make us feel or seem silly to other people. But please, please, please spend time with that beautiful inner child, especially during this time of solstice, whatever season it is for you, allowing yourself to go outside and bring out that inner child. I did a reel just a few days ago where I was telling people what it was like going on a walk or a run and how I was spending time with each of the different pieces and parts of nature, with a pile of dirt and the trees and the grass and all of the things. And I really appreciated someone's comment about feeling that it helped them tap into their inner child. And so if there were any invitation I had for you over the next little while, no matter how hard your ascension symptoms might seem or how tired you might be, I want to invite you to just do any little thing that you can do to connect with that inner child aspect. My friends, thank you so much for your support. I truly appreciate that you're coming in and you're commenting on my YouTube videos. You're leaving a review and rating if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. You're subscribing to the podcast. You're following me on Instagram and commenting and liking things there. The more that we co-create in that way, the more people, the more starseeds will be able to have access to these activations and information that are truly serving all of us together. This is a group effort. This is a group effort, and I am so grateful to you for your willingness to be here. As always, I'm sending you so much love and reminding you that I am you, and you are me, and we are we. Until next time, my friends.